What time did you leave the hospital? I'm not going to show any more videos.
Can we turn
Yes.
the light?
Yes, please.
Mrs. Benson?
What time did you leave the hospital?
Not sure, sir.
Can you estimate for us?
No, sir.
Could it have been 6?
I can't estimate. When you're dealing with a situation like that, time is really hard to gauge how long we were even there, honestly.
So it could have been 5:30, could have been 6, could have been 6:30, right? Is that right?
I don't want to give a time, sir.
You just don't know.
No, sir.
The first time you made a statement, Mr. Muhammad, about this cream, this request for the cream, was on August 31st, 2009, right?
Yes, sir.
And you made that statement in the same office at the same time as Alberto Alvarez making his statement. You were in the same office.
Objection B. At the time of the interview?
All right, let me...
Sustained. Re-ask it, please.
Where were you when you made your statement?
When I made my statement, I was at my lawyer's office.
All right. And who else was there?
The detective.
Objection B. Would be specific
Well-
at the time of the interview?
Who
Is that what you
refers to what other human beings were there? Was Alberto Alvarez there?
At
No,
the
sir.
time of the interview.
Yes.
No, sir.
Oh,
Well, now, remember, I'm asking, was he in the lawyer's office? Was Alberto Alvarez in the lawyer's office?
wait. What?
Objection B. He said the interview took place in the office. Is the question, was Alberto Alvarez present during the interview?
Well, that was asked, and he said no, and then he said he was in the lawyer's office. I'm
Okay,
asking.
we don't need the arguments. I think the whole series of questions may be a little bit confounding. So would you refine, please? Sustained.
Your lawyers, they had offices,
Yes.
and these offices were connected, a lot of them?
Yes.
They had waiting rooms,
Yes.
they had hallways,
Yes.
had a little kitchen maybe?
I'm not sure.
Was Alberto Alvarez anywhere in there?
When I gave my statement, I'm not sure.
Well, did you travel with Alberto Alvarez up
No,
there?
sir.
Did you see Alberto Alvarez prior to making your statement on that day?
No, I can't recall.
You can't recall? Is that your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Not that he wasn't there, you just can't remember?
I can't remember if I seen him before I made my testimony.
Did you see him after?
I don't recall.
All right. How about Michael Amir Williams? Do you recall seeing him there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you ever worked with Alberto Alvarez before? Before you started working? Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry, Judge, about that. You started working for Michael Jackson in October of 2008.
Yes.
Had you ever worked with Alberto Alvarez before that time?
No.
All right. Had you ever worked with Michael Amir Williams before that time?
No.
But you knew him,
Yes.
and you knew him for 10 years.
Yes.
Where did you meet him?
Who are you speaking of?
Where did you meet Michael Amir Williams?
Objection relevance, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection. 350, 352. Socially, in a professional capacity?
Michael Amir Williams.
No, you can just answer. Socially or professionally?
Socially.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
All right, let's go to did you work a normal shift for Michael Jackson?
Yes.
What was your normal shift?
I normally would come in about 11, and that would fluctuate upon his movement. If he didn't leave the house or if he was staying home, I would leave about 7 o'clock. But if he was planning on traveling or doing some traveling, then I was there until he left.
And when you say traveling, you mean running errands, going to visit
Yes.
people, shopping, for instance?
Correct.
One of the things that you did was to accompany him wherever he went.
Yes.
Were you primarily responsible for that, or did
Yes.
people take turns?
No, I was primarily responsible for that.
So you were, when he traveled, you were with him,
Yes.
and he trusted you.
Yes.
Do you recall taking Michael Jackson to visit Dr. Arnold Klein?
Yes.
on many occasions?
Yes.
When you took him to visit Dr. Arnold Klein, did he oftentimes leave the office looking a little tipsy, a little intoxicated?
Yes.
Was there ever a time when you took him to Dr. Arnold Klein's office that he was actually brought downstairs by one of Dr. Klein's staff?
Yes.
Estimate for us how many times a week you would do that? You would take him to Dr. Klein's office.
It could fluctuate. There were times where he was going almost every day, and then there were times where he wouldn't go for a couple of days. So it fluctuated.
But if he did go, you would be with him.
Yes.
There was a time that Michael Jackson actually told you why he was going to Dr. Klein's office, wasn't there?
Yes.
You didn't ask him.
No.
It wasn't your business to ask
No, it wasn't.
Michael Jackson where he was going. It wasn't your business, right?
No, it was not my business.
But one day Michael Jackson volunteered that information to you.
Yes.
And he's told you, he said, you must think I'm crazy. Didn't he say that?
Yes.
He said, you must think I'm crazy for going to Dr. Klein's office so much.
Yes.
And you said what?
I said, no, sir. I don't think you're crazy, or I don't think much about it at all. I just do my job, and we don't. I just let him know that I didn't see him one way or the other with whatever was going on.
But then he told you that I'm going there because I have a skin disease. Is that what he told you?
Yes.
And that was the end of the conversation.
He elaborated on it slightly. He elaborated. He said, my doctors tell me that I have to go, so I go. And, he elaborated. I don't remember all the words, but I remember him going a little deeper than that.
And did it make you feel uncomfortable to have him telling you this?
No.
No. Had you ever, during the period of time that you were at the house during the day, Carolwood, I'm referring to Carolwood, Michael Jackson's house,
Okay.
did you ever see during the day other caregivers coming to the house, other doctors, other nurses come to the house?
We narrow the focus of time.
I'll sustain your objection. You want to frame?
Let's say in the month prior to his death. Did you ever see other nurses or doctors come to the house?
No. Not to the house.
When you took Michael Jackson, you knew that Dr. Murray would come in the evenings.
Yes.
When you took Michael Jackson to see Dr. Klein, Dr. Murray did not accompany you.
No.
He wasn't at the house.
No.
Do you know who do you know who Sherilyn Lee is?
Yes.
Who is Sherilyn Lee?
Sherilyn Lee, she was a nurse that was hired really more for his children. I believe his children were sick at the time, and he asked if we knew of any doctors or nurses that could help out, and Sherilyn Lee was hired.
You knew Sherilyn Lee?
Yes.
How did you know her?
Professionally.
She had treated you.
Yes.
And she is a nurse practitioner?
Yes.
Is she a friend of yours?
No.
No. She's just treated you. You knew her professionally.
Yes.
All right. I want to take your attention. Did Sherilyn Lee ever spend the night
Where?
at the Carolwood house? It was at Michael Jackson's house?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. Do you recall an event on June 21st, 2009, when you called Sherilyn Lee on behalf of Michael Jackson?
Yes.
This was a Sunday, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
But you were working that day?
Yes.
Do you recall why you were asked to call
Yes.
Sherilyn Lee? Can you tell us?
Yes. Michael Amir told me that MJ said he was having some weird symptoms, and one of his hands was hot and one of his feet was cold, and that he wanted a doctor to come see if everything was okay.
Did you first call Dr. Murray?
No.
You just called Sherilyn Lee.
Yes.
And when you called Sherilyn Lee, did you speak to her or did Michael speak to her?
I don't recall if I actually spoke to her. I believe I didn't. I believe I didn't get in touch with her immediately. I believe I got a voicemail and I left her a message.
Did you don't remember speaking to her specifically?
Eventually, I did speak with her.
Okay.
But when I initially called her, I wasn't able to reach her.
And what advice was given to you by Sherilyn Lee?
I don't recall.
Sustained,
Well,
partial answer stricken,
did you-
disregard. Re-ask.
Did you have a conversation with Sherilyn Lee about Michael Jackson's symptoms?
Yes.
Well, and what did she tell you to do?
I don't recall, sir.
Didn't she tell you to take him to the hospital? Call 911?
No, sir. I don't recall that.
Later that week, did you tell Dr. Murray about the phone call to Sherilyn Lee?
I never spoke with Dr. Murray directly about Mr. Jackson's health or anything else.
Well, but my question is, did you tell anybody about that event?
About what, sir?
The June 21st, hot, cold, called Sherilyn
No, sir.
Lee?
Dr. Murray was reached. Dr. Murray was actually reached for that situation, and I believe he advised through Michael Amir what Mr. Jackson should do.
Oh, is that something that you have ever told anyone else besides us today?
Is what?
That Dr. Murray was reached?
I've never went over this part of the story. I mean, it really doesn't have much relevance.
Well, I think the judge will make that determination. So you first called Dr. Murray, and you couldn't get hold of him?
I never called Dr. Murray. I called Dr. Lee.
Okay.
Because I was asked to call Dr. Lee.
All right. So then after you spoke to Dr. Lee, you called Dr. Murray?
I never called Dr. Murray, as I just stated.
You never spoke to Dr. Murray?
No, sir.
How often did Dr. Lee come by the house? Or Nurse Lee?
Next to never, rarely. We could probably count on one hand the amount of times she came.
When you made the call for Michael Jackson, where were you? In the
I
house?
don't recall.
Huh?
I don't recall.
Were you inside the house?
I don't recall, sir. I know I wasn't inside the house, but I don't recall if I was there on property because I received a phone call saying that Mr. Jackson is saying he has these symptoms. We need to contact a nurse or a doctor, so we contacted Dr. Lee.
Well, Michael Jackson was standing there when you called Sherilyn Lee, wasn't he?
No, sir.
He was.
No, sir.
Where was he?
I don't know, sir.
But you remember being outside.
I didn't say that.
Were you inside?
I was not inside his home. I might not even have been on property, so I can't say I was outside of his home or inside of his home. I know for sure that I received a phone call. I don't know particularly where my location was.
And the phone call you received was from Michael Amir
Yes.
and Sherilyn Lee.
No.
Do you know if Michael Amir spoke to Sherilyn Lee?
No, I don't.
May I have a second, Judge?
Hey.
You spoke to Detective Myers on one occasion and Scott Smith.
Yes.
And you never did tell him about this situation with Sherilyn Lee, did you? You didn't tell him the whole story.
Situation didn't come up.
But you did tell the police officers on June 25th that you knew that Dr. Murray was trying to help Michael Jackson because he couldn't sleep.
Yes.
How did you know that?
It's rumors.
Would it be fair to say that everybody knew? Everybody knew that that's what Dr. Murray was doing. Isn't that right?
I can't say one way or another. I can say for myself.
Well, here you
Well,
are, a new employee as of October 2009, right?
Yes,
And you knew.
2008.
October 2009 or 8?
2008.
Thank you, Judge, 2008.
Yes.
And you knew, right?
This is almost 10 months into the job, but yes.
Did you talk to Michael Amir about it?
No, no, sir.
You never told him.
We never really discussed that. No, sir.
What about Alberto Alvarez?
I don't recall speaking to him about that either.
The house doesn't have any telephones in it, does it? The house? Doesn't have any landlines in it?
I don't believe so. No, sir.
And these paparazzi, they're pretty sneaky, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
They'll try all kinds of tricks to get inside the house and take pictures,
Yes, sir.
because they sell them.
Right.
So you have to be careful not to let just anybody come through the gates.
Yes.
If a police officer came to the gate, you wouldn't automatically let him in.
No.
Ambulance came to the gate, you wouldn't automatically let him in.
No.
You were not, though, there at the Carrollwood residence when Michael Amir called you.
No.
And I'm going to narrow it down. June 25th at somewhere around noon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You had gone to the bank, you said.
Yes.
How long had you been at Carrollwood? Well, let me back. When did you first get to the Carrollwood house for your shift?
Approximately a little after 11.
And then you left for the bank when?
A little after 12.
Was it normal for you to leave in the middle of a security shift to run errands?
Well, with my position, I wasn't house security. So the house security was already set up, and they protected and guarded the house. My job, I could leave for hours at a time if Mr. Jackson asked me to, or if I needed to, because I was the head of his security. I was mainly there for if we needed to go somewhere, he would call Michael, and I would set that up, and we would begin to leave. But normally he gave us a little bit of an advance. Rarely to ever would he just pop up and want to leave. So I was able to fluctuate. If I needed to be there, I could be there. If I needed to go down the street, I could go down the street, and it really wasn't an issue.
Your comings and goings were not recorded anywhere?
Yes, sir. There's cameras at the property.
There are actually security cameras that are up at the front gate that show
Yes.
cars coming in and leaving.
Yes.
And there's actually security cameras that point to the doors, front door, back door.
Security cameras that point to the front gate.
What about cameras that are pointing to the front door?
Pointing to the front door. There might have been. I'm not sure, honestly.
On the evening of the 27th of June, 2009, the police asked you to help them take out some of the surveillance tapes from the gate.
Yes.
Recall that?
Yes.
And you worked with a technician from LAPD to download that surveillance tape. Is that right?
Yes.
Was there any specific request for a specific time on that surveillance tape?
I don't recall, sir. It was quite some time ago.
Was there anybody else besides you and this particular technician downloading the surveillance tape?
I don't remember, sir. Don't recall.
But whatever the LAPD would have gone away with would have been all that was available?
Not sure, sir.
Did you happen to see the amount of tape that was downloaded?
No, sir.
Surveillance tape?
No, sir.
First thing you did when you arrived at the Carrollwood address was to go to the front door. Is that correct?
At which time are you speaking of?
Well, after you came back, When Michael Amir called you to go back to Carrollwood, you went back to Carrollwood,
Yes.
and you were how many minutes away?
A few minutes, 5 to 7.
And you immediately turned around,
Yes.
and you took the exact same route back to Carrollwood,
Yes.
and you went through the front gate
Correct.
where the surveillance camera is,
Correct.
and you got out of your car. Did you get out of your car?
I was dropped off, as I said earlier. My wife was with me, so she dropped me at the front gate, and I entered, and that was when I approached the front door.
Why'd you go to the front door?
Because I was in a rush, and if you look at the setup, it would take me a few more seconds to come through the back door.
Did Michael Amir tell you to go through the front door?
I don't recall him specifically directing me which door to go through.
That was a decision you made?
Yes.
And then you went upstairs.
Correct.
I don't recall you testifying to this. You said the total number of times you went up and down the stairs. But you did go up and down the stairs twice after the first time, right? Oh, all right. Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. How many times did you go up and down the stairs?
Approximately 4 to 5.
Okay. And do you recall each reason you went up and down the stairs?
For the most part.
Well, can you tell us?
Yes. The first time, as I stated earlier, was dealing with his children to get them out of sight. The next time was to get the vehicles. Another time was to bring the ambulance up. Another time was to prep the security for when we had to leave.
How soon after you arrived did the paramedics show up?
It's hard to say.
Was it somewhere in that period of time you're going up and down the stairs?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Now, each time you went up and down the stairs, you went into the room.
Yes.
And you surveyed the whole area in the room, right?
Yes.
It was a shocking experience.
Definitely.
Michael Jackson was lying there. His eyes were wide open, right?
Yes.
But you don't remember what was on the IV stand?
No, sir.
Did you see any oxygen tanks?
Don't recall.
Did you see any vials or needles or any medical paraphernalia at all?
I don't recall.
This is the second time you've testified.
Correct.
The first time you testified, did you recall then?
No, I don't believe so.
Did you recall when you talked to the police officers the second time?
No, sir. Not to my knowledge. May I speak, sir?
I don't think so, unless there's a specific question.
Okay.
Thanks. You may.
No, sir. Not that I can recall.
And when you left the hospital, what was your intention? Were you intending to go back to Carrollwood at that time?
No, sir.
Where were you intending to go?
I don't recall.
How is it that were you driving?
No, sir. I don't believe so.
Who was driving?
Don't recall.
Would you know where you were sitting?
I believe sitting in the front seat.
Well, who was next to you?
I don't recall.
Did you have a wheel in front of you in the front seat?
Objection. Argument.
Sustained.
Don't recall, sir.
You don't have to answer that.
Thank you.
Partial answer, disregard the last answer, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Do you happen to know where you were heading to when you left
No,
the
sir.
hospital?
I don't recall.
Do you happen to know how you wound up going to the Carrollwood residence?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh, okay. How is that?
We received a call from the security at the Carrollwood residence that we left there, and they were saying that the detectives arrived and they would like to ask us some questions. So we immediately headed back that way.
So wherever you were heading, you immediately shifted to the Carrollwood residence?
Yes.
And all three of you, Alberto Alvarez, you, and Michael Amir Williams, went to the Carrollwood residence?
Yes.
And there at the Carrollwood residence, you spoke to police officers?
Yes.
At that, let's strike that. At the Carrollwood residence, you had occasion to speak to police officer S. Abdul, Detective Abdul. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And do you remember where you were when you spoke to Detective Abdul?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where were you?
We were standing in front, slightly to the right of the front door.
Judge, can I have a second? I got to get a picture.
Sure.
We have a mess here. It's going to take just a second.
Take the moment, please.
We're going to look for the picture so I can.
Let me know. Thank you.
How long did you stay at Carrollwood that evening?
Could have been an hour, maybe 30 minutes.
Maybe 30 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And that's when your wife came to pick you up?
No, sir.
What did you do then when you left?
The detective wanted to speak with the nanny, so we assisted them. I took him over to, I believe the children were at the Havenhurst address with their grandmother. So he wanted to speak. If I'm not mistaken, they were there. He wanted to speak with her, so we took him there, and he got a chance to interview the nanny.
Who's we?
Myself and the detective.
You went to Havenhurst.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, it could have been Haven. I don't recall the exact place that we went, but wherever the children were after their father passed away, we took him there because they were with the nanny, and he wanted to interview the nanny.
Was Alberto Alvarez there when you got there?
Not that I recall.
Did he show up there later?
I don't recall.
Do you know what detective you took to Havenhurst?
Yes, sir.
Who was it?
Abdul.
Abdul.
Yes, sir.
And you did see the children there?
Yes, sir.
So that was, wherever the children were is where you took Abdul?
Yes, sir.
I need to mark these, Judge. We're defense C, is that right?
Yes. Identified as?
Defense C, it's a photograph.
C is in Charlie.
Can I approach the court reporter for a second, get stickers?
Well, I think probably Mrs. Benson would be.
Okay.
Post-its.
I can use Post-its, yeah.
Do you have more than one?
I have 3 photos, Judge.
Do you want to mark separately?
Yes, I do.
All right, Charlie Delta Echo.
Thank you.
Have the people seen them?
Not yet, but I think, yes, these are photos we turned over to the defense.
All right, thank you.
Do you want to use this iPad?
Let me, Mr. Muhammad, let me show you this photo, which is marked as Defense Exhibit D. Can you see that okay? Or
Yes.
Is it, do I? Kind of shiny.
You want us to turn down light?
Yeah, it's kind of shiny. Let me see your iPad.
Wait, we can
Can you turn that
turn off one of the banks.
Do you recognize yourself in this photo?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would
Is
you-
this C or B?
It's D.
All right. It's D as in Delta.
Yes, as in Delta. You have a pointer?
Yes.
You want to show us where you are? Who are you talking with?
Detective Abdul.
Abdul.
Yes.
Who is this? You see Michael Amir Williams?
Yes.
Can you show us where he is? And who's he? Who's in front of Michael Amir Williams?
Alberto Alvarez.
Alberto Alvarez.
Yes.
With back toward us?
Yes.
Back towards us.
Yes.
And next to Alberto Alvarez, do you know who that gentleman is with the glasses hanging from his shirt?
No, sir.
Do you know who the coroner investigators were?
No, sir.
Did you talk to any of them?
Not that I recall.
This is going to be Defense E, Judge, Defense Exhibit E.
Thank you.
Echo. Let me show you this part of the picture here, Mr. Muhammad. Who are these 2 individuals?
That is Derek Cleveland. It appears to be
Which one's Derek Cleveland?
with the black suit on,
All right.
and that is Eric Muhammad.
Eric Muhammad
Yes.
is related to you?
No, sir.
Is he?
The gray suit. Yes, sir.
And how about here? Who are these 2 individuals?
It's myself, and with the hat on, that's Detective Abdul.
This is what he said.
It's E, Echo, Judge.
A larger size on the right-hand side.
Okay. And this is going to be Defense C, Judge, Charlie. All right. Looking at this photo here, who are these individuals?
It's myself, Detective Abdul, Michael Amir, and that is Alberto Alvarez.
Alberto Alvarez.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Turn off, thank you. You can remove that item, thank you. We can turn on our lights, Mrs. Benson. redirect by the people.
Thanks,
Mr.
John.
Walgren.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mohammed, just to be clear, when you were interviewed on August 31st, 2009, were you alone in the room with just your attorney and the detectives?
Yes.
Okay. Alberto Alvarez wasn't with you?
No, sir.
Okay. Michael Muir Williams was not with you?
No, sir.
No other witness was with you?
No, sir.
Okay. And you were truthful on that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nurse Lee, she's in fact a nutritionist, and she deals with vitamins and nutritional supplements and holistic things such as that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to your knowledge of what Nurse Lee does, that's the extent of what she does?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Walgren, thank you. Mr. Chernoff, recross, if you need a moment.
Please, Judge.
Sure.
That's all we have, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. May Mr.